So let's look at pseudocode. So pseudocode can be broken down into 5 components. So we have something called variables, assignments, input or outputs, selection, and repetition. Okay, so let's start with the first one, the variables. Now, what are variables? So variables is just something that has a name, and that variable may have also something like a data type. I don't know. Okay, let me break this down in a simpler way. Data type is, like, for example, talking about an integer is a data type. Also, a decimal number is another type of data type itself. And that data type is something called strings. Okay, strings are like normal, like words. Okay, like English language, like stories. So words are like strings, so they are like another category of something called data type. You understand? So variable consists of the name of the variable, the data type it has, and also the value assigned to it. So there is a location in the memory. Whenever we declare a variable, there's always a location. It is stored inside the memory. Always. Okay, so a variable can be called anything or given any name, but it's best practice to give a name of variable with a name that follows or pertains to what you are actually trying to do. Okay, so something, one example of variable is just something like, okay, I think I don't need to write anything here. Something like this place here. Okay, let's just talk about assignment now. We'll use this example to explain what variable is. So now, assignment is the physical act of placing a value into a variable. So whenever we are placing a value into a variable is, mind you, even the word variable is something that can change. Okay, while the value is just more like kind of like a constant in a way. Like example of constant is just something like 5, 10, like normal numbers are constant. You understand? So when we say, so this x now is a variable on its own. Now let me explain this aspect of the variable. When I said variable has a name, data type, and value. If I say something like sum of integers, so now this is my variable name. I chose to name it sum of integers. Remember this last sentence. It is considered best practice to use variable names that are relevant to the task at hand. So what I want to do, I want to sum two integers together. So I chose to use the variable name sum of integers so it will tally with what I'm trying to do. All right, this is not compulsory though. It's just best practice. That's just it. Okay. Then I can choose to then say something like maybe 2 plus 3. Sorry, 2 plus 3. Now this 2 plus 3 is the value I'm assigning to this sum of integers. Now we're talking about the aspect of data type. So if in C programming now, I will need to declare my variable. So I declare it in terms of integers. Since I'm dealing with sum of integers, so I will use integer as my data type. So I can just put at the front of it int this. All right. So that means first of all, I've declared my variable as an integer. There are other examples too. When it comes to decimal, you can use something called floats or double. Okay, but since we're dealing with integer, let me make it simple. So we're just going to use int at the starting place side of it. Okay, so the variable name is the sum of integers. Now, is equal to sign. We know equal to in our secondary school or elementary school that it means like two sides are equal. All right, but now when it comes to programming, it doesn't work that way. So that equal to sign which we are seeing here is not really equal to sign per se. It's more like an assignment operator. So we're assigning, we're not equalizing. All right, just keep that at the back of your mind. So now what are we assigning? Let's take for example maybe like 2 plus 3 is 5, right? So let me just give it as 5 here. So assume we've already done this stuff, like it gives us 5. So now what we're doing, we're assigning 5 to this integer. So whenever I'm calling sum of integers, I'm calling 5. You understand? So we're not saying the two are equal. We're only assigning, like dropping 5 inside sum of integer in a way. So that's what this assignment here is talking about. So now looking at this example here, we have x is equal to 5, which means I'm assigning 5 to x. So whenever I'm calling x, 5 is going to come out with it. Okay, so now just as if you are placing something inside a bag. So let's say the bag, you have a bag x, a bag labeled x, like in the school bag. Then you place number 5, or you place an apple inside. So if you are carrying the app, if you are carrying the school bag, you are also carrying the apple along. Okay, you're also carrying the 5 along. So whenever I'm calling X, I'm also carrying what is inside the X, which was placed inside the X. But it doesn't mean my bag is the same thing as whatever is inside the bag. You understand? So if an apple is inside the bag, my bag is not equal to an apple. Both of them are not equal. Just that my apple happens to be inside my bag. So something like that. So that is what assignment operator is. So we're assigning 5 to X. This same place also we're assigning 10 to Y. Now, remember we're talking about variables. Even from the English word, variable is something that can change, right? So with this variable X, which we first initialize here, this part as 5, we can also still change it later on in our code. Remember, if you say X plus Y, remember our X initially up here was 5 here. So it's just like saying the 5 will come down here, and this is our Y, which is 10. The 10 will enter here, then to be 5 times 10, which is what? 15. So that means our new variable X has been assigned 15, no longer this 5, in as much as it happens after it's below it, so it can be updated. Alright, so don't forget we usually need to declare the variable also. So we can declare the variable. I think in Python, I don't think this declaring is necessary, but in C programming we always need to declare our variable. So that's talking about the data type. That's what I'm trying to say here. Alright, so the left side in the variable a value is being stored in. Okay, so the left hand side is the variable, which is our X, Y that you are seeing here. Okay, while the right side is just the value. Okay, so the right side is the value, which is our 5, 10. So these 5, 10 are actually constants. All right, so when a variable is, but we can also add variable plus variables together, just like what we did here where we said X plus Y. So we're adding 2 variables together. Okay, just keep that also at the back of your mind. So I think that is actually some of what all these texts are saying. If you go to this text, you understand that I just talked about it. Okay, so let's just move on. So we have something called the inputs and outputs. So what does that mean? So inputs is just, for example, you want to order something in Jumia. So you want to order for a new laptop. You've placed your order, you've input your order, and you've checked out. So then the order will come as an output for you to physically see what you've done. Okay, so you've already made an input of letting them know what you want to get. Then they bring out the output for you later on in your place. So you get to see it physically at where you're staying. So that's just what input output is all about. So a user can input something, like you've seen some kind of game, let's say a game or like websites, or whereby they will say, if are you in the age of 18 and above? If yes, click 1. If no, click 2. Then if you are above 18, you are going to click 1 because you are above 18, right? So that one you click is an input. So once you click that one, an output will come out next to say, okay, good, you are above 18, then you can view this content. So that's like the output side of it. So that's just what input output stuff is just all about. So moving on now, when it comes to writing it in pseudocode, in terms of input output, we always use this read most times to represent the input, and we often use this write to represent the output. You can also use the other ones there, the other options there, whereby like you can say I have input. Yeah, you can put read, you can put get, you can put also input. All right, but most times we often use read to represent whenever a user is inputting something inside, or we want to input something inside ourselves. Okay, so we have the output. So output is what comes out in the screen. Okay, just like the display in our screen, whatever output it shows us after inputting a command or inputting the condition given. All right, so that's what we use. So we usually use write. You can use write, you can use display, you can use print. So in short, most times usually write and print most people use. Okay, I think in that my pseudocode I use print. So either way is still acceptable. All right, so the next part we have something called selection. So selection construct allows for a choice between performing an action and skipping it. So it's just more like a conditional statement. So if, just like what I said now, for example, just like when I said, if you are above 18, you can view this content. Else, you can't view this content, which means if you are not above 18, you can't view this content. So it's just like a conditional statement in a way. So that's just what selection is about. So we can use the if statement for that. So we have something called if statements, else if, and else. All right. So well, probably when we start the pseudocode, you get to understand better about what this stuff is. But let me just say one or two. So this if statement is trying to say, if this condition is met, then it will run the statement under it. But if this condition is not met, it will enter inside this else and run this else statement. All right. So for example, now if I say, just like the first condition I said, are you above 18? If yes, you're above 18, good, you can play this game. But assuming the person said no, it's not above 18, then else will run. It will be else that will run, which is the other statement, since it doesn't meet the condition. So else by something like that, so you can't play the game. Okay, so that's just what conditional statements is just about in terms of selection. Now lastly, talking about the repetition. So the repetition is just like something, even from the word, is very simple. Something repetitive, something that happens multiple times. All right, so it happens multiple times in terms of also a condition in a way. So most of the time they have used stuff like this for the while. There's something called the while loop, for loop, which you'll learn later on when you start a natural programming language. Okay, so in terms of for loop, for example, even for and while loop, they both have initialization, they have condition, and they have something called iteration. But I think this will be best explained when we start attempting some of those pseudocodes. So I'll get to explain this aspect in a more breakdown manner. All right, so let's start with some problems. Wow, these problems look much. I'm wondering how I can use speed to explain this. Okay, because what I want to do is that I want to explain the pseudocode and also test it in C programming, so you will be seeing how it will actually successfully work for us. I may not do all in C programming though, I will just do some, but I will focus more on explaining the aspect of the pseudocode of how the answers or the thoughts of it, or how to think about it to get the actual answer. All right, so let's try with the first example. Let me give it some space. Okay, now the question says write pseudocode that reads two numbers and multiplies them together and prints out their products. First, let me remind you of something again. Remember, the input is read, the output is write. Or preferably, I like using prints anyway, so let me just stick with prints in this lecture. All right, so because prints will look like something you can imagine that something is coming out, right? So at least read or even input is even feels much better than read, but we can just choose to stick with read anyways. Okay, now going back to this, write pseudocode that reads two numbers. So that means imagine we have two numbers in our head, right? So now the two numbers, that means we are given two numbers. Yeah, you can choose to name the numbers different. So this is the first number, which I choose to name as num1. That's like the variable name I'm giving it. All right, so we have another number, num2. Those are the two numbers. Write pseudocode that reads two numbers. So I've just given an input now, whereby I represent num1 as a number and I represent num2 as another number. All right, so now and multiplies them together. That means num1 and num2 multiply themselves together. That's what it just simply means. Okay, so that means num1 multiplies num2. If you notice, I didn't use letter X. We don't use letter X in programming. We use asterisk, okay, as our times. So now the two numbers multiply themselves. So once it's multiplied themselves, let's say for example those two numbers are 2 and 3, and which means 2 times 3, right? And 2 times 3 is what? 6. So that 6, we need to store that 6 somewhere. You understand? So picture it in your mind, we need to store that 6 somewhere. So we can choose to store it in a variable, something like, so I can give the variable name as something like maybe multiply, just so it will tally with what I'm doing here. Okay, but now since we're writing in pseudocode, we don't need to put this equal to sign, so we can just say multiply, maybe something like this 2. So we set, or let's just set it something like set. So set multiply to num1 times num2. So all we are saying in that sense is that we're just saying, just like what I explained the other time, create this your variable. Okay, now these are what you want to happen. So num1 times num2. Okay, so if our num2 is 3, our num1 is 2, so that's like saying 2 times 3, so which is what? 6. So that means 6 will be assigned to multiply. All right, so which means for us to see multiply in our screen, for us to print it out, then we're going to say print multiply. All right, so that means I'm going to write here print multiply, which is the name of the variable. Print multiply, or if you don't use print, you can use write. Anyone is still the same thing. All right, so this is the end of this whole pseudocode. You can see how simple it is. And just mind you, when you are dealing with variables, I mean naming variable, since you use small letter n here, make sure everything is the same thing. Don't go and use small letter, don't go and use variable and maybe use small letter m here, and you now want to point it to capital letter M. It doesn't make sense. You have to follow the same name you use, the format you used. Okay, so that's just it. So that's it about example 1. You can see how short and simple this pseudocode is. Now let me go to C and show you how it works using C programming. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to, just like the example I used, let me use the exact variables I used here. Okay, so now I have 2 variables in my mind, right? So I'm first going to declare the variable with their data type. So I'm using integers. Okay, so I'm going to work with integers. So num1 and we have num2. Now those 2 integers, they multiply themselves. All right, since they multiply themselves, that is num1 times num2. Now just multiplying themselves, they give we have to store whatever value which they use to multiply themselves. Let us store it somewhere. So I chose to store it in a variable called multiply. Okay, so don't forget, you must always declare your variable. So since I've created a new variable here which is multiply, I'm going to add the multiply among the list here also. Multiply, so all of them are integers. Now there's also something. Now we have num1, num2, which we can give it any number we want, right? So let's give it the number. So I say, maybe I chose to say num1, I assign num1 as 2, and num2 I assign num2 as 3. Okay, so now we have how many variables? So I have 3 variables here. We have the first one num1, we have another variable num2, and we have a third variable multiply. All right, so now we assign num1 as 2, we assign num2 as 3. So now we have multiply and multiply. We assign multiply to the multiplication of num1 and num2. All right, so now lastly, for us to then see the output, I'm going to then print it out. So but in C programming, we usually use printf we use to write, you understand, but the major point is that it prints. Okay, in Python we use print itself. In JavaScript we use console.log. So several programming has their own method of printing, but the whole essence is that all of them print something. Okay, so we print out. So you can say the result is, if you don't understand what I'm doing here, it doesn't really matter. You don't need to understand what I'm doing here. This is actually C program, which you might not have started yet. Okay, so I'm just testing the pseudocode just so you will see that it actually works. So I'll say multiply and let me add my return 0. Ignore the return 0, it doesn't need to be in the pseudocode for any reason. This is just something related to C that we should always put that return 0 here in our main function. All right, so now let me run this and let's see what it will give us. So you can see said the result is 6, which is 2 times 3, right? So 2 times 3 is 6. So if I change this to maybe 5 and 10, which is 5 times 10 is what? 50. So let me run this again. You can see the result is 50, which means our pseudocode here is perfect. All right, So that's just it about that. So let's go to the next example, example 2. I know some of you will be smiling now, be like, wow, wow, wow. That's especially the novice. Like, wow, this is nice, this is nice. Okay, all right, so let's go to the next one. Write pseudocode. Write pseudocode that tells a user that the number they entered is not 5 or 6. Now, reason this stuff. These things are things you just need to reason. Write a pseudocode that tells a user, that means a user inputs a number. That's what it means. Okay, but then if the number is not 5, that means it should tell the person that, okay, what you type here, it's not 5. All right, that's what it's just. That's just this what the example is saying. Or what you type here is not 6. So write a pseudocode that tells a user that the number they entered is not a 5 or a 6. Okay, so that's what it means. Now, how can we convert this into pseudocode? There are actually several ways you can do this same example, this single example. So remember what I said the other time? I said there's no one way. Okay, there's no really one way of writing a pseudocode. So there are different ways. Different people can think of different ways of still getting the same results. All right, so one way of doing this one now, which is that, okay, that means now I will have to first read the value the user wants to put. Okay, so write pseudocode that tells a user that, so let's assume I am the user. Okay, so I will say read, and let's give it a variable. Let's give it a variable. So this, I want to give it a variable that pertains to what we are doing here. So tell the user that the number they entered is not a 5 or a 6. Let me just name it something like not 5, not 5, 6. So that's just the name of the variable I chose to give it. Okay, so you can give it anything. Okay, I just want to remember your variable need to just tally with what you are doing. Okay, just get that point right. So that's one part. Now, so I've written a variable which I named not 5, 6, not underscore 5 underscore 6. All right. Mind you, the way of writing variable, every language has their own conditions in terms of how to write variable. Okay, so just so you know that, so at the back of your mind, you can also choose to even join all of them together if you want to, but it will just look jam-packed in a way. Like when I say, I mean something like this. Okay, maybe I can do it this way. Okay, let's use this one. This one look more shorter. Okay, so this one look more shorter in a way. So let's name it this way, not 5, 6. Okay, not underscore 5, 6. Right. Okay, so now, now what I'm saying here, this not underscore, what I'm trying to say is that if, for example, this is the variable here, not underscore 5, 6. That is just a variable. Then we can assign whatever number to it. So it depends if the user entered 4. Here. So that means if the user entered 4, that means it's going to tell the user that this is not 5 or 6. Okay. So if you are even assigning to 10, it's going to tell us that the number you put is not 5 or 6. Okay, that's just the essence of what we are trying to point out here. So now for us to do that, we are now going to use the if statement for us to do this. So I'm going to say now that if, then the condition, if not 5, I mean not 6 rather. So if not 6, remember not 6 is just a variable. Okay, so it's which tells us whatever the user puts, the number the user puts. Okay, so if not 6, that if the number the user puts there is equal to 5. Okay, so imagine the user actually puts a number that is 5. So what should happen? So we want it to print to the user that your number is 5. That's if the user actually puts 5. Now what if the user puts 6? So if not 6, remember this is just the variable name. Okay, not 6, 6, so we are assigning it to 6 just in case the user up here puts 6. So imagine if the user puts 6 here, what should it show to the user? So let it print this to the user. Print your number is 6. Okay, now remember, this is not really we've not really started the main goal. The main goal is to tell the user that when they put a number that is outside 6 and 5, it should tell the user that what they entered is not 6 and 5. So now we've just stated something just in case, some people can choose to put 5. Okay, so what should happen when they put 5, which is what we're trying to do here. Also, what should happen when they put 6, which is what we're trying to do here. So now when they put anything outside 5 or 6, so this is how we're going to write that. Then what we're going to write here is else. Actually, this should be else if. Okay, else usually comes last. Okay, so else, that means trying to say that if these two condition, if anything outside these two if condition is done, run this else, which is print for me your number is not 5 or 6. So that's just the pseudocode for this code itself. Now you can see it's simple. So imagine you are the user now. Okay, now I'm the user. I have a program, and the program, they ask me to put a number, and I just choose any number. I just placed 4. Then it will enter inside this first condition, this if condition. Is not, remember, I assigned 4 to not 5, 6. Okay, so now if not 5 is not equal, remember we're even talking about equal to here. I'm supposed to use these 2 signs here, not a single one. Yeah, that's how it should be. It should be this double sign. Now let me explain what this double sign means. Remember what I said when I was talking about assignment operator, and when I was talking about it's not the same thing as equalizing in this aspects of assignments. Okay, so when it comes to real equality, it's usually noted in 2 double equal to sign. Okay, so this one is the real equality operator or equivalent operator. All right, but a single equal to sign is an assignment operator. Okay, so that's just it. So what we are checking now in this condition, now we're checking the conditions here, that if 4 is equal to 5, which obviously 4 is not equal to 5, right, then it will skip this and go to this next condition. So else, if 4 is equal to 6, is 4 is equal to 6, no, it will skip this, then to run this otherwise. That means if it's anything outside 5 or 6, print this last number, which is, it prints your number is not 5 or 6. So that's what happened here. All right, so if for example the user puts 6, it will first start from the beginning again. If 6 is equal to 5, whereas 6 is not equal to 5, so it will skip this, go to the next is if else if. Then if 6 is equal to 6, which is 2, then print your number is 6. So it's going to print this particular your number is 6. It won't bother going to F because it already meets this condition here. So else here will be ignored. So that's just what it means about this aspect of this pseudocode. So this is one example itself. So there are other examples you can also do the same stuff with. I don't know whether we should, there are several ways you can think of solving the same stuff. Okay, let me just show you another illustration, just in case you don't get this first illustration. Let me just find time to quickly explain another illustration. So now another example, as in not really example, like another illustration using the same stuff. Oh, I think I claimed something here. Read not 5, 6. Okay, so I want to solve this again. So read not 5, 6. Now to use another method to solve the same stuff. All right, so now the same read, so the user puts a value inside that read not 5 and 6. So it means read or imputes a value. Okay, probably it's read may be confusing some people. Remember, you can use read, you can use impute. Okay, so imagine the user imputes the value inside this variable, whatever number the person you put inside. All right, so then we use the if statement saying then if whatever value the user put, that is if not 5 6, which is just our variable name. Okay, so if not 5 6 is equal to 5, or not 5 6 is equal to 6, what should happen? Let it print for me. I will explain, don't worry. Let it print for me your number is a 5 or 6. Now, what's this second line? What I did here now, I'm putting two conditions side by side, all right? And I'm actually using a logical operator. There's something called logical operator in coding. Wow, I'll have to now be explaining this aspect again. So logical operator, when I talk about OR, so we have an OR operator, which is part of a logical operator. Logical operator just talk about more like true or false, when something is true or false in a way. Okay, so now when we are using OR in something like this, when two conditions are in both sides, so what it's saying is that one of them, maybe let me explain that aspect of OR here. Okay, now if we have true or true, false or false, true or false, false or true. Now, for all operators, its own condition is that at least between the two sides, one of them should be true for it to be true. I repeat, between the two sides of condition in all operator, if at least one of them stands true, that means the total output of everything will run as true. So yeah, we have true, which even both sides are true. That means the final result here is true. Going to this next place, we have false or false. There's no true at all, which means it's going to run as false for me. Okay, now this other part, we have true or false. Remember the condition, even if there's at least one true, it will run everything as true. That means it will still run as true for me. Yeah, we have false and true in the other side, which is it should still run true for me. So this is the condition of OR in logical operator, for OR operator. Okay, now taking this knowledge now to this stuff that is here. So now what it's saying is that if not, which whatever value the user inputs here, let's assume I'm the user now, and let's assume I'm the user, and maybe I put in let's say I put in 6 here. So I assigned 6 to this not 5. So what will happen here is that to say, look at this aspect where though not 5 is equivalent to 5. It's asking if they are equivalent. I remember my not 5 here is 6. So that means it's saying 6 equivalent to 5 or 6 equivalent to 6. So it's asking me in this condition, in this aspect now. So what should be the input of this? It says is 6 is equivalent to 5 here. False. This place is false, right? Because they are not equal. So this is false. Now looking at this next part, is 6 equivalent to 6? It is true, right? So since they are equal, I mean this place is true. So that means our final output should be what? True. Okay, that means since our final output here will be true, as if the user puts 6 up. Okay, so if since it is true, it will run as true, that means it's going to print for me your number is a 5 or 6, and which is true because at least there's a 6 in part of the print outs. Alright, so I believe you understand this better now. So now let me give another instance now. Let's say for example we put 4, maybe the user puts in 4 there. Now let's try the condition again. If the user puts in 4, then to say not 5 or 6 equivalent to 4, remember, which is 4 equivalent to 5 or 4 equivalent to 6. So let's check the conditions now. Now 4 is not equivalent to 5, so this is false, and 4 here is not equivalent to 6, which is what? False. So since both sides are false, it's going to print false for us since there's no at least one true. So this will run false. That means this print out will not work. So it will go to the next condition, which is then the else. the else condition, which is any other thing outside this, let it run. Okay, let me use the else. Let me write the else in capital letter here. So the else, that means once the if this condition, this first condition is not met, else print this last part. Your number is not a 5 or 6, which obviously it is a 4, right? So yeah, it prints to the user your number is not a 5 or 6. So that's just what this whole, just these aspects of the same pseudocode is doing. So this is like method 2. This first one we did here was method 1. So you can see now, so it works. It depends which of them looks simpler for you, which one of them do you like, or which of them looks shorter, or which of them do you understand better. So you can see there are different ways you can write your pseudocode. There's no one way. It just depends on how you want to imagine how you want the code to run and the condition of what the user can input. Okay, and there's actually one more way of doing the same thing, one third method again. Wow, am I really going to go into this? Okay, let's try. All right, so we have another third method. At least within this one and 3, you should be able to pick one at least, okay, to understand this example too. Now the third method here, again as usual, read in whatever value the user puts. So we name the variable 5, 6. That's just the name of the variable. Let me clear this. Okay, now since the question says write a pseudocode that tell a user that the user they entered is not a 5 or a 6. So when you say something is not a 5 or 6, that means you don't want the user to put in anything that is 5 and 6. Okay, like using the statement now, write a pseudocode that tells a user that the number they entered is not write a pseudocode that tells the number that the number they entered is not a 5 or 6, which is the goal. They don't want the user to put a 5 or 6. They want the user to put another number. Okay, so which means we have to look for a way to put the code in a way whereby it should just not, like, it should just run whatever I want to run without actually running this 5 or 6. Like what I'm trying to say now, if we have if statements here now, then I will just be like not 5, 6 is not 5, and don't worry, we'll explain. I know this one will be looking like what's happening here, not 5, 6 is not 6. Okay, now let me show you something. Let me write this stuff as if I'm writing it in C programming. I think probably you understand better in that sense. If I write not 5, 6 is not equal to 5, and not 5, 6, not 5, 6 is not equal to 6. That means now I'm saying that if whatever the user is, now there is something about this and now is another logical operator. We've talked about or. Now let me explain what AND operator is. Now for the AND operator, both sides must be true. Okay, so yeah, I think both sides has to be true. So if this place is true and the other side here is true, it's true, the one as true. But if one of them is false, sorry, like maybe this place is false, it will run as false for us. The condition is that both sides must be true. So even if we have false first here and we have true here, it will still run false for us. And even if we have false and false, it will run false for us. So you can see now the only time it runs true is when this two side of a condition is true. That's when it will run as true for us. Understood? Now let's try some example now in this pseudocode. Now mind you, this stuff up here is same thing as this stuff up here. Now what I wrote here is in sense of C programming. Okay, so now when I say if our variable is not this symbol means is not equal to sign. Okay, like it means not equal. So not equal to sign. That's what it just means. All right. Now if the user, now let me assume I'm a user now and I put in 4. So I put in 4, that means this not equal, that this not 5 6 means 4, right? So now let's test it ourselves and see. So looking at this condition now, that's if 4 not equal to 5 and 4 is not equal to 6. Sure, let me remove the if statement brackets. Now let's reason this together. Let's reason this together now. So now 4 is not equal to 5. Is that true or is that false? It is true because 4 is not equal to 5, right? So that means we have true here. Okay, next, let's go to the next part. 4 is not equal to 6, and which is true because 4 is not equal to 6, which is true. So that means it will run as true, that yes, those both sides are true. So it will run as true. That means once it runs as true, what should happen? Print, can you write? Okay, so print your number is not a 5 or 6. So you can see, so that's just it about that. You can see this code, this is actually like the ending of this code. All right, or you can choose to, well, you can choose to want to add an else statement, but I don't think it's really necessary, since the goal is that you want the user not to put any number that pertains 5 or 6. All right, so that's just it about this. Now let me give another example. If I put 5, here, now let's try the condition again. Let me see, here will be, okay, sorry, so the user puts in 5 here. So now let's try this place. So that means here will be 5, and this other side, this is our 4, let's replace it to 5. So now 5 is not equal to 5. Is that true or false? Is 5 not equal to 5? No, it's not true, right? That means it is false. So false. Okay, so false. So we'll come here again. 5 is not equal to 6, which this one is true, so it will remain as true here. But now, since we are dealing with AND operator, the condition of AND operator, both sides have to be true for it to be true. And now both sides are not true. That means it will still output as false. As false for us. Okay, which means this, your number is not a 5 or 6, will not print out. Okay, since the condition here failed. So the condition here failed, it showed false. That means if it failed, else, print something else for me. So whenever the condition failed, that means print your number is a 5 or 6, because that's the only reason, that's the only thing that can make that condition fail. If you've noticed, so that's the only thing that can make the condition fail there. So even if you try, if you attempt 6 here, if you put 6 here and we'll put 6 here, so you can see now this first part, 6 is not equal to 5, which is true, which is here is true because 6 is indeed not equal to 5. But here 6 is not equal to 6, which is false because 6, we know that 6 is equal to 6, so this should be false. But then we have true and we have false, and the AND operator, both sides have to be true, so this will be false. Okay, so that's why to still run this else statement for us. So these are just the 3 methods you can use to get this same stuff in terms of number 2. In terms of this example too. So I've explained 3 different methods here. Okay, I'm not thinking, should I run this stuff again in my C program? Well, I'll just run one I can't run both because of time. Okay, so let me just run one. So let me run this third. Let me run this our third one. Okay, so not 5 6. Okay, not 5 6, not 5 6. So let me erase this previous one we did here. Not 5 6. All right. So what I'm going to write here now. So I'm to declare a variable, and I'm to name the variable not 5 6. Okay. Then I'm putting an if condition, an if statement here, telling it that if not 5 6 is not equal to 5, and not 5 6 is also not equal to 6, print for me, which I'm going to use printf because I'm dealing with C programming here. So print for me your number is not a 5 or 6. So that's just a new line character. So else, that is if the if condition fails, if it is false, like I explained the other time. So what should happen? So if it's false, print for me, like let me use the brackets. Let me use the curly brackets here. Well, I think it will still work. It's supposed to still work like this. So else print your number is a 5 or 6. Okay, so let's test this. I think there is no bug here. Let's try this. So let me build and run. Okay, I'm even yet to assign the number. So assign the variable. So we have not 5 6. So let's assume I give it as 4. So let's see what it will run for us. That's if the user gives it as 4. So the user inputs 4. So let's see the result it gives us. You can see it gives us your number is not a 5 or 6. Okay, which is obviously the false. I explained the pseudocode, so you can go back to that pseudocode I explained and come back to look at this and understand why it gives me your answer is not a 5 or 6, which obviously I put 4 here because it's indeed not a 5 or 6. Okay, now let me put 5 here, which means it should give me this other else condition because this place will run as false for us, because you know that 5, when this part now will show me 5 is not equal to 5, which is false because 5 is actually equal to 5. So it has spoiled this AND operator, which means both sides have to be true. So this place will be false for me. Why this place will be true for me? But the total thing, it will still run as false, which means it will now go next to the else statement. So it will run your number is a 5 or 6. So let's build and run this and see it for ourselves. So you can see your number is a 5 or 6, which is true because the user puts in 5. So the number is a 5 or 6. So that is it about that. Just if you notice I didn't put that new line here, and if you notice how the closeness here, the process return 0, process is kind of close. So if I put that new line character, which I shouldn't be explaining this because it's just related to C, we're not doing C here. I just felt let me just say it just so you just know a little thing about C. You can see the space now. So that new line character is creating a new empty line there, so you can see that space. So that's just the essence of why I'm putting that \n there, which means new line character. Okay, so that's just it about that. So we've tested the code, you can see it is working very fine and perfect. All right, so that's how to go about that. We can also test other pseudocodes here, which I really don't want to invest time in doing all of this because kind of like it's little stress to me. But I'm still feeling tempted. I'm still feeling tempted to do at least one more of it. So probably let me do the first one. Let's do the first one of it. Let me just do the first one of it. So this is one method of doing this stuff. All right. Now let's look at another method of doing this stuff. So I'm gonna. Sorry. Let me just go back. Control Z. So what I need to erase is actually just this portion. Okay. So now not 5 6, so assuming it is equivalent to, let me not give it yet a value. So assuming it is equivalent to 5, we want it to print for us your number is it your number is 5? I wrote here also. Okay, yeah, your number is 5. Else if I put a new condition, if the variable, whatever the user puts inside, okay, so if whatever the user puts inside is now 6, I want you to run this condition. If it is 6, the number the user puts inside, so I want it to print for me that your number is 6. Now if it is neither 5 or 6, which is the final else statement, so if it is neither of them, print for me your number is not a 5 or 6. Let me put that new line character for each of them, just for that space that I explained the other time. Good, so we are done. Now let's assume we are the user now. Okay, so we are the user now. We want to put a number. So let me say I'm the user, I put in 4 as the number, then I build this. So let's test this. 4, right? I place 4. Your number is not a 5 and 6, which is true. Now how did this output came to be? The user puts in 4, right? Then the condition is first start with the if statement. 4 is 4 equal to 5. Remember, this 2 equal to sign is equivalent. So is 4 equivalent with 5? No. Okay, that means it is false. Let's try the next condition. Is 4 equal to 6? No, it is false. Let's try the last condition. Else, that means if any other thing, print this last stuff. That means whatever the number the person puts, print this last statement here. Your number is, that's how it happens like this. Now let me put 5 here. Let's see what it will run out for us. You can see now it prints your number is 5. Now we have 5 here. The user puts in 5 here. So the first part to go as usual, it first starts with the if statement. So 5 is 5 equivalent to 5? True. So that means to print your number is 5, then to ignore the rest for us. So that's why it prints your number is 5. The same thing goes if the user inputs 6. Now let me build again. So you can see now the user inputs 6. It first start with the 5. 6 is not 5. 6 is equivalent to 5. That is 6 equivalent to 5? No, 6 is not equivalent to 5, right? So go to the next condition. Is 6 equivalent to 6? Yes, then print for me your number is 6 because it is true. So print for me your number is 6. So that's just all about this. So I believe you understand by now. You should get what's the concept about everything we've been doing here. And just so let me just do some extras. I actually like C programming naturally, so let me just do some extras as regards to this C. So if your brain scatter, let it scatter. It will arrange back later. So there's a function called printf. Okay. So before that, I'm just doing this. Doesn't really concern pseudocode. Okay, I want it to look neat in a way for me. So if I say printf, please, I'm telling the user. If you notice the first stuff, the expression I've been given, I've been the one doing it myself. Like I'm being the one choosing the number. Okay, on the norms, we should allow the user to put the number themselves, not we forcing the user to put a particular number. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So please impute any number of your choice. Okay, so impute any number. That's what I'm telling the user now. Okay, let me remove that stuff. Okay, so I'm going to put percent %d. Don't worry, you may not understand what that percent %d. Now this connect function is just something that will let you to bring a prompt so that the user can put in something. Okay, so I'm going to put an address of, and the address I'm going to name it the variable, which is not 56. Don't worry about this, just don't worry about this. Okay, don't crack your brain about this, just see the output of what I'm trying to do here now. That's the major essence of what I'm doing here. Okay, there's an error message. I forgot to put my semicolon after the printf. So let's go again. You can see the difference now. So now this is like a program we are running now. So the user opens the program or the application, is the user just saw something like this and put in any number. They'll be like, any number, okay, let me put in 50. Your number is not a 5 or 6. You can see. So that means 50 entered inside the not 5 or 6. So it's checked. Is 50 equivalent to 5? False. Go to the next condition. Is 50 equivalent to 6? False. Else, print whatever it runs. Okay, print this statement irrespective of the number the user inputs, which means it prints your number is not a 5 or 6. So I believe you understand this perfectly. You can see there's no space in between these two places. I can just put that space initially here. So if I cancel, run this again, so let me just put any number again. Let me just say I put 10. Okay, now that's the space here. So that's just about that. I believe most of us now we are like, I want to start C. I want to start C. No, you enjoy C. You enjoy C. Most people don't feel C is hard. Okay, so I expect to do the hard things. They feel Python is more simpler. But for me personally, I kind of love C. Like I love C in a way. Alright. So that's just it. Wow, we're doing PseudoCode. We've entered, we've divided inside C. So you guys now you know how to code C. At least you can do some basic if-else statements in C. You can boast about that. That's if you're a beginner. So if you're following this, good luck. I really give you thumbs up. You are really doing well. Wow, we've been in number example 2 since wow. I don't think I can finish all of this at once now. Probably I will leave some as assignments, sadly. Okay. Okay, let's see this in example 3. Man, let me chill a bit. All right, let's go. Okay, so example 3. Write a pseudocode. So write pseudocode that performs the following. Ask a user to enter a number. Okay, if the number is between 0 and 10, write, which is print, okay, write the word blue. If the number is between 10 and 20, write the word or print the word red. If all these things are just like conditional statements, it's just like this same if statements we've been doing. So last part now said if it is any other number, write or print that it is not a correct color option. Now let's do this. Yeah, let's go. So if we have read, okay, now we're talking about colors, right? Let me name it as color. So I name this variable color. Or should I use color option? Let's leave it as color for simplicity, so we won't stress our brain. Okay, so color. So this is my variable. I named the variable as color, right? So now the question I said, ask the user to input a number. Okay, so the number, maybe I use variable as color, which maybe user inputs 4. Okay, so let me explain that regard first. So let's just go on to the next aspect. So which says that if the number is between 0 and 10, print the word blue. Okay, that means if color, which is the number the user puts, okay, so he said if the number is between 10, is between 0 and 10, is between 0 and 10, that means if color is greater than and equal to greater than, if it's greater than and equal to 10 and color is less than or equal to, I mean this should be 0 here, not 10, and here will be the 10. I'm looking at this statement well. Remember the English here, what's the English very well, very very important, so you won't get confused about the whole stuff here. Look at it, says that if the number is between 0 and 10, when you say something if it's between 0 and 10, that means we're talking about 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that means if whatever number the user inputs is between 0 and 10, which is the condition I put here, that means our color is the variable, which is whatever the user is putting in. Don't forget, okay? Okay, so if color is greater than or equal to 0, that means if it is 0 also pertains here. Now we are using the AND logical operator here also. Now in the other end, remember when we say it's greater than or equal to 0, that means we are saying if it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to 30, 14 till infinity. But now instead of us doing it till infinity, we will break the infinity by putting this other condition in this AND here, so that it will stop in this condition of when the color is less than or equal to 10. I mean, it should not pass 10. So that means by saying it is 0 to 10. That's why we put this other condition in the other side here. I hope you understand this very well now. Okay, so that means if this condition is met, we want it to print. So what should it print? Okay, so it should print blue. So print blue. Okay, now else if we have another condition here, if the number is between 10 and 20, so just the same thing, color. Now if it's between 10 and 20, that means if it's greater than or equal to 10, remember anything that is greater than or equal to 10, that means it will start counting from 10 till infinity. So just so it will stop at, it won't go to infinity, we want to give it a limit, so we're going to put an AND operator, then give the input that the input should stop when it is less than or equal to 20. So it shouldn't pass 20. That means we are saying 10 to 20, between 10 and 20. Okay, that's the condition. So if the user puts a value that works within that condition, when these two sides are true, we want it to print. And what's the color they are given? Write the word. And what's the color? Okay, red. So to print red, yeah. Okay, so we have another one. I think we have one. If the number is between 20 and 30. Wow, this is too much. Okay, so again, else if color is between 20 and 30, so that it prints for us. What's the number given there? Green. Okay, now last sentence. If it is any other number, that's if it doesn't meet any of this condition, if it's any other number, write that it is not a correct color option. So that means else. If it is any other thing, as like else statements, any other thing aside this above condition, let it print for us. It is not a correct color option. Ta-da! So that's the end of this pseudocode. As simple as this. You can see. So we can test this. Let's test this in C programming. I'll just copy. I hope it will work. But I don't want to stress myself in rewriting the same words again in my C. Just see if I can copy and paste. Okay, just look jam-packed, but let me adjust them. Adjust. Now, since I'm dealing with C, this is a natural programming language, so we're not writing it in pseudocode manner, we're writing it in a real manner that follows C rules. So I'm going to use printf instead of writing print there. Okay, again. I'm not missing anything. Hope there's not there's space. Okay, there's no space. Okay, semicolon. semicolon, semicolon. Okay, we have another print, semicolon. Okay, so we want to declare this an integer. So we want the color, then the user will put in a color, that's a value, a number, right? Okay, so that's just it about that. You can also choose to use that scanf stuff that I use. I don't do that scanf stuff again because of time. Okay, so I imagine I'm the user. Okay, I'm the programmer and I'm also the user. So I don't want the user to put their own number. I want to be the user for my own self. Okay, so assuming I put in 4 here now. Okay, so now let's look at this if statement. Say if I put in 4 here, say color which is 4, right? So 4 greater than or equal to 0. And oh, sorry, we're dealing with C here. I shouldn't be using this and here. I should be using this is what I should be using in replacement for that pseudocode and. Yeah. Okay, so and color which is the same 4 is less than or equal to 10. So now let's look at this two condition. Remember the AND operator. Okay, the AND operator, both sides must be true for it to be true. So 4 is 4 greater than and equal to 0. True or false? Is 4 greater than or equal to 0? Yes, 4 is greater than or equal to 0. That means this place is true. And let's look at this other condition. Is 4 less than or equal to 10? Yes, 4 is less than or equal to 10, which is true. That means since we have true both sides, so it will run as true for us. Okay, that means this printf, that means blue will run for us since this condition here meets as true. So let's build this and see for ourselves. Tada! You can see we have blue here. So that is why blue came to be in the output. Okay. Let me just put those new line stuff because of this. I like that new line space. I don't like things joining themselves together. So that's just it about that. Okay, so other conditions too. If I put 25, so imagine the user put in 25. What do you think should be the output? Pause this video and reason what the output would be. Okay, I believe you've paused the video and you've gotten your answer. So let's test your answer to see if you are right or wrong. Green, you can see it meets only this condition. Now let me explain how it becomes this condition. So first of all, in this part we have 25 here, right? So we have 25 greater than or equal to 0 and 25 less than and equal to 10. Okay, so now let's test the conditions. 25 greater than or is 25 greater than or less than 0? True, because 25 is greater than 0 even if it's not equal to 0. Okay, so if is asking that is 25 greater than or equal to 0, it is true because at least it is greater than 0. So that means this place is true. Now this next condition is 25 less than or equal to 10. So 25 is neither less than 10 nor equal to 10. So this place is totally false. And since we have true and we have false the other side, it will run as false. Remember the condition, both sides have to be true for it to be true, so it will run as false. So that means it won't print this blue for us. This condition has failed. To try this next condition, so let's try the next condition. The next condition now, again 25. Now is 25 greater than or equal to 10? That's the first part of this place. So is 25 greater than or equal to 10? Yes, 25 is greater than or equal to 10 because it's actually greater than 10. So I mean this place is true, right? Now and operator, go to this next part. Color less than, which is 25 less than or equal to 20. So let's check. Is 25 less than 20? No, 25 is not less than 20 because 25 is greater than 20. Is 25 equal to 20? No, 25 is not equal to 20. So this is false. So which means it is still running as false for us. Then this second condition has also failed. Then we need to try the next condition. So let's try this next condition again. Now 25 greater than or equal to 20. So is 25 greater than or equal to 20? Yes, 25 is greater than 20. Okay, so that means this first part is true. So our AND operator. Let's check the next condition here, color, so which is 25. So this next condition says 25 less than or equal to 30. So is 25 less than 30? True. 25 is less than 30, even though it's not equal to 30, at least it is less than 30. So that means this condition in this aspect is true, because 25 is less than 30. So now we have two true in both sides, and true will give us what? True. That's why it run our answer as green. You understand now? Wow, yeah, that's how it is. So those are the stages of how it follows up with the if statement. Okay, so now for this else, that means if neither of all these conditions is met, that means if we put any number that is greater than 30, even 31, since it is greater than this last condition 30, it will run for us. It is not a correct color option. Let's try that. So you can see it is not a correct color option. So that's just all we've been doing here. Mind you, if you notice this stuff are actually comments. So they call it comments in C programming. So it's something that the C program, the compiler, will not notice. So it's just for you to use it to make your code neater, so you can understand what region of your code, what they mean. But let me not talk about it. So we're not doing C, so let's just leave that. Anyways, the point is you understand the essence of what we are doing here. So that's it about the aspect of this example 3 and the pseudocode stuff. Wow. Okay, we have 3 more. Okay, so because of time, let me just jump right in at example 6. So you can take the example 4 and 5 like an assignment. I think that you just need to learn more about for loop and while loop for those example 4 and 6. Number 4 and 5 rather. So let's just go to example 6. Now in example 6, it says that write a pseudocode that reads in 3 numbers and writes them in a sorted order. When you say sorted order, that means in an like maybe ascending order or descending order, depending on how you want to see it to be sorted out. Okay, so I think this is actually simple. So we just need to read. So firstly, I can choose to represent, so representing 3 numbers. So those 3 numbers, I chose to want to represent them by A, B, and C. Okay, so I'm representing them as A, B, and C. So that means I'm going to read A. Remember the user have to put 3 different numbers. So 3 different numbers, then so the program will arrange the number for the person in an alphabetical order, which is my focus. So read A, read B, and read C. It's taking the input from the user now. Okay. So now we're going to use the if statement. Let me put a space here. Alright, so now let's start the if condition now. So if we say if A is less than C and B is less than C. Now watch this. Watch this now. Here we have if A is less than C. Remember, we have 3, the user will put 3 inputs, right? 3 different inputs, A, B, C. So now if A is less than C, which one comes first in your mind? If A is less than C, that means A comes first before C, right? Since it is smaller. Then this next condition of this AND said B then is also less than C. Okay, mind you, we don't know what A and B is, but we know that both of them are less than C. That means B also is less than C. That means C will come last. Okay, just that now we don't know which of them will come first between A and B, because we only know that, for example, now if A, okay, see this illustration, if C is 10, then if A is 5 and B is 6, or short, let me put, if A is 6 and B is 5. Now looking at this up condition now, we have A is less than C, right? Which 6 is indeed less than C, which it is true. Now we have another one, B is less than C, which 5 is indeed less than C, which it is true. That means C will be the one at the last. But now we don't really know about A and B, which of them is bigger. We just know that both of them are less than C. So now we have to then compare both of them to know which of them is bigger between A and B. Yeah. So we are going to then write another if statement saying that then, since you know C is the bigger one, since you know C is the bigger aspect, we know that in our first prints, here, we're going to have something that is maybe A or B, or A or B also, and we know that C is the last one. Okay, so now we have to now check the condition for A and B to know which of them is really big between, or which of them is smaller. So we now check for A less than B. That's if A is less than B. Now if A is then less than B, it means A should come first since A is less than B. Okay, then followed by B. But then can also be another case whereby if it is maybe B that is less than A, that means the print here would give us, so the print here will give us B will come first because B is less than A. Okay, B, A, and C is still the last one. So that's the first regard now we've done here. So just looking at that illustration I explained, so since you know that A is less than C, that means A comes before C, and we know that B is less than C, that means C is the last one. That's why we put C in the last part. But now we don't know what A can be or what A is that the user might have put, so we have to compare the next part, which is this A and B. So that's why we compare each of them inside here. So we say, okay, if A is then less than B, print this arrangement, or if B is less than A, print this arrangement for us. So it's usually the lesser one that we start first. That's why we started with A here, and here this B is lesser one here. That's why we started with this B here. I hope you understand this now. So this is one way. So remember, we're dealing with 3 numbers. So since we're dealing with 3 numbers, we have to have 3 different major if conditions here. So this is the first if. So we can then say else if. So we're going to need another else if to check another statement condition. So another unique way, once you can do this first part, the rest part will be very easy to do. So just follow this pattern. Since you know that we have C at the extreme, next you can choose to put A at the extremes here. So what I'm saying is that you can just put something like A less than B. Remember, we started with C at this extreme. We started with C also at this extreme. So now I want to put B at the extreme. So A and C at the extreme will also be B here. So that's what I'm just trying to say here. So we started with C at the extreme. So I'm going to put B at the extreme, and I'm going to put A and C in this last side. So that means B will be the last one. Don't forget, since A is less than B and C is less than B, that means B will be the last. So that means the if of this one, the if here would be, the fight now will be between A and C, which we don't know which of them is greater. So we have to put the condition for both of them to know which of them is greater. So if A is less than C, that means A will print out first. So that means print A followed by C followed by the last part, our usual B. But then if A is actually, or if C is the one that is lesser than A, then what you just need to print the lesser part first, which is C is the lesser one. So C followed by A and our usual last part, our B. So that's the whole other part. So this is the last condition now. So the last condition is another else. Let me put under one line space. So else if the condition, so just like we started, we place our C at the extreme, B at the extreme. Now we're going to put A as the extreme here. That means we're going to have something like B less than A and C less than A. Because now we want A to be at the extreme here, A, just like we have B, we have C. Okay, so checking this condition, the same format of way we've been checking it so far. So since B is less than A, so B will be at the beginning, C also is less than A, C also will be at the beginning. That means we know that A is the last part because it's the biggest number between the three numbers to be at the last part. So now divide to them be between B and C for us to test which of them is bigger, for us to know which of them will become first and which of them will come second, because we already know the third portion as A. So the next fight is between the first two position, which is between B and C. So I'm going to put under if statement stating then that if B is less than C, so if B is less than C, we want it to print for us, B will come first since it is less than C, so C and A. So the last if condition again, if it is C that is less than B, okay, if it's the other way around, if it is C that is less than B, so we can print C, B, A. So this is the pseudocode of this example 6, as simple as that. Okay, and now an alternative way of doing this stuff is just like we can choose to remove this second condition inside this if condition and just put else, since it's just between two conditions. So that means if A is less than B, you should print A first, right? Now when I say else, I try to say the opposite of it. That means if B is the one that is less than A, B should come first. That's what that else means. Just like saying the opposite of this first condition. So same thing, you can choose to just put an else statement. So either ways you are still correct. Okay, so remember I said there are different ways of doing this. You can also choose to put else here, so you just print the opposite of it. Alright, so that's just it about that. So that's the pseudocode of this example 6. Well, I hope you understand this illustration better. You can also put this stuff in your code editor, which I don't want to stress myself doing it right now. So I believe you understand this explanation. Watch this video, replay the video several times so you get it. Okay, I hope you understand. Thank you very much. Bye.